Hey everybody, this is Pamela Cole, and I'm taking some time here to talk about this immersion presentation I put together for one of my stores and share with you some of the thoughts and ideas I have about how to use it. Thanks to Lisa Brannick and Deb Siddle for their conversations today, getting my brain working on this and putting it together so that you can kind of hear the words and the language that I'm using with this. So we start with building a culture of trust. And this is CEM 2021. Our focus is on trust building behaviors and how we can help create the most trusted brand experience. So there are actually three trust relationships that we'll be looking at and talking about. So first, there is the relationship of trust, or the assessment of trust for the brand. And we can have some conversation about what you think customers are feeling about Ford the brand right now, and what you see as the future of Ford the brand in terms of building trust. Then at the next level, we have, what is the dealership trust relationship with the customers and the community that they're in, and how is the dealership perceived from trusting? And I have some stores that I've worked with for the last 10 years, and it's really been delightful to see how that trust relationship has improved. And the store that I'm focused on in this presentation, Auto Fair of Manchester, New Hampshire, is one of those stores that there was a very low trust relationship with the dealership in 2012, and they are now a 3-time President's Award winning store. And just reading the customer verbatims and hearing in so many ways customers trust them in all departments. And then the third trust relationship is between the dealership team member and the customer. So do I trust the brand? Do I trust the dealership? And how do I feel about you, the person that I'm doing business with? How much trust do I have there? And as all the work in trust talks about, trust actually is two things. It's about someone being willing to be trusting. And what I mean by trusting is that I'm willing to put something at risk with you, that I'm making a decision to put something at risk. That may be my money, that may be my well-being, that may be my vehicle, that may be my credit, all of those things. Am I willing to make that? And I decide whether I'm trusting based on how I perceive your trustworthiness. So how trustworthy do I see you as being? So that's what we're evaluating at all three levels. So let's talk about how we can break out trust into actual behaviors that build trustworthiness. There's been a lot of research in this field, and a lot of different people have written in depth about it. I've compiled them and pulled them together in what are commonly considered the 4 key areas where we exercise trust building behaviors or not. So the first one, and maybe the easiest one, is what we call competence. So from a trust standpoint, people need to believe that we're competent. And competence is easy for people to judge in some cases. And in other cases, they may be deciding that we're not competent based on not having enough information. So that may have to do with recalls and how we fix recalls. That may have to do with some of our transparency or lack of transparency around pricing in our sales transactions. So competence, that they feel that we know how to do what we say we will do. The next category of trust building behaviors is reliability. And this one also can be challenging because it means that we follow through on what we say we're going to do. So that means we return the phone calls we say we're going to make. We get back to them with information, prices. If we have a WEO on a part, we make sure that they get back in to have that installed. So there's lots of ways that we are needing to follow through on what we say we will do in order to have reliability and build trust. Credibility, our words and our actions match. We are credible. Now, unfortunately, this is an industry that has a lot of history of words and actions not matching. So we're kind of going uphill to make sure. And this is another place where our communication skills may get in the way and cause people to think that our words and actions don't match, when in fact, we're not trying to do anything to break trust. It's just that we have inadequately communicated. And then the last one, and as it turns out the most important one, is how we feel about care. So care we can define very simply as through our words and our actions, we demonstrate that we care about you at least as much as we care about ourselves. So that's an individual perception. It's an emotional perception, but people know when they feel that there is care or there is self-absorption. So the more self-absorbed we are, the more focused we are on getting what we want, and the less we show that we care about others impacts this measure. So let's talk a little about what we've been doing in the field of customer satisfaction for the last, well, this is 30 years now. This work came out in the 1990s, and early in the beginning of measuring customer satisfaction and really working to understand it and build it, we focused just on rational satisfaction. And rational satisfaction, our understanding of customer satisfaction was that they would make a decision based on their overall satisfaction, and we could measure how good a decision or how strongly positive the decision was based on their likelihood to recommend and their likelihood to return. Since then, we've learned a lot more about the neuroscience of decision making. And it seems that emotional satisfaction happens first, and then we rationalize it with whatever we can measure rationally. So, and how do we build emotional satisfaction? Here are the key behaviors, and this is the work of Human Sigma in the early 90s. First of all, do we have confidence? Do they always deliver on promises and a name that I can trust? So that's about reliability and credibility. Fair resolution of problems, always treats me fairly. Once again, that's our trust building behaviors of reliability, competence, credibility, and treats me with respect, and I'm proud to be a customer. Now we're moving into the important dimension in trust building of care. And then finally, the passionate customer, the absolutely, I love you, I love your dealership customer. I can't imagine a world without you. You're perfect for someone like me. So we're looking at what it takes in our trust building. So we're building rational satisfaction with credibility and reliability. We need to do those things so people's head, their mind, can say, it's good for me to do business with them. And then we build emotional satisfaction through our credibility, that our words and actions match, and that we demonstrate that we care about them at least as much as we care about ourselves. So that's what we're looking at in terms of what builds satisfaction. Now let's talk about how we actually build trust in the sales process. First of all, we have our transaction. And pretty much all dealerships have a standardized sales transaction process. It's been a little modified, certainly during COVID and with using more of online support for that, but it's pretty much the same process. And if I go into any retail showroom, automotive dealership, I will experience a process quite similar to this. So that's what we call the transaction. And the minimum expectation is that we have a transaction that is efficient, effortless, and seamless. Then we have the relationship, and that's where our skilled sales professionals are building a relationship where they create by connecting, creating comfort, building rapport, building trust, what we're talking about here, and then from that we'll have a relationship. So let's look at where the specific trust building behaviors fall. Well, once again, in our transaction, we need to be competent and reliable. We need to follow through on what we say we're going to do, and we need to demonstrate that we know how to do what we're going to do. Then as we look at relationship, that has credibility and care as the key trust building behavior areas. So we need to show that our words and actions match and that we care about them at least as much as we care about ourselves. And then we get the 4 key trust behaviors and a positive outcome with our customer. Same thing in service. We have a well-established service process, and that's our transaction. And that's what customers expect if they go to any dealership for any service. And then we have building the relationship. So once again, that's about competence and reliability for effective transactions, and then credibility and care for building strong relationships. So let's look at how this actually plays out. So these are some specific, we're going to be working with some specific customer verbatims from your CVP. So right here, we have a story about a sales representative, David Kelly, and this is what a customer had to say. Normally, I ask somebody in the audience to read this, and so I'll read it. David Kelly was very knowledgeable and excellent to work with when selecting the right vehicle. Paying $50,000 is a huge decision that comes with a lot of questions. David Kelly was great at helping me navigate the vehicle buying process. Very pleasant to work with. 3 exclamation marks. So as we look at this, let's unpack our trust building behaviors and see what the customer is telling us. I'm going to ask you to think about this. What does the customer say about perceived competence? Did they see David Kelly as competent? And how do we know that they did? And it's right there in knowledgeable. He was knowledgeable, and he implied he was able to answer a lot of questions. Reliability. How do we do on reliability? Did David build trust or break trust on reliability? Sounds like he was great at helping them navigate the whole vehicle buying process. We don't see any reliability failures there, so looks like he built trust with reliability. Credibility. I'm thinking that right there, paying $50,000 is a huge decision that comes with a lot of questions, implies that without credibility, this would have been a hard transaction. And then care, summed up in the last sentence that the customer says, very pleasant to work with. So overall, Dave Kelly was great. And so very positive on our trust meter from 0 to 100. Where do you think we went with this one? Did he nail all 4 categories? I think so. I think this was 100 on the trust meter: competent, reliable, credibility, and demonstrating care. So now let's talk about one that was a little harder, a little more challenging. And in this case, we are talking about another department involved in the sales process. And we are talking about a customer came in to purchase a 2021 Bronco. Lisa's just joining us. Lisa, can you see where we're looking at the 2021 Bronco?
I can see that.
Okay, Lisa. So I'm going to ask you to answer these questions. So let's read it. We had an amazing experience at Auto Fair Ford. We went in to purchase a 2021 Bronco Sport, and they did not stop persevering until they got us what we need. Kalina and Dave went above and beyond, contacting bank after bank until they could get us an approval. Most other places I purchase from won't want to work with you after you've been denied. We have 2 other car loans creating the issue, but that wasn't the case here. Floored by the customer service and how much they cared about us individually. We will absolutely be returning to Auto Fair for our future car purchase. Thanks, guys. So Lisa, on competence, what do you think this customer is saying about their perception of the competence of the 2 team members and Auto Fair Ford? Did they build trust or break trust?
Oh, they build trust, all right.
Okay, were they competent? Where do you see the words that show their competence? And they're actually calling out another department about competence.
Yeah, so basically going to the different banks to get them approved.
Yeah, so their F&I department kept persisting. They persevered, what a great word, until they could get us approval. And these customers actually know how unusual that was, because they say, most other places wouldn't do that for you. So now let's talk about reliability. Reliability is our actions follow our words. So what do you think the customer assessment of reliability is?
I mean, it built trust, but I'm not seeing
Okay,
where it
so
did.
reliable. This is a little subtle. You've got to pull it out. Our
Sure.
words and our actions. So when they were first greeted, they were probably told that we could do something for them and get them into a vehicle. And then when it started becoming hard to get financing, they were able to follow through and persist until they actually proved they were reliable. And that also ties to their credibility. So we did what we said we would do. We would get you in a vehicle. And let's just talk about care. How much and how do we know that they feel really cared for? Let's pull that up.
Because they actually say so. We were floored by the customer service and how much they cared about us individually.
Yeah. So on our trust meter of 0 to 100, how do you think we did?
I'm thinking it's 100.
I'm thinking it's 100 too. We were competent, we were reliable, we were credible, and we showed that we care. So now let's go to one that wasn't so good. All right, Lisa, you want to read this one out?
Sure. It wasn't just sales, it was the whole experience, bad communication, and they don't care. My salesperson called me, then the finance person called and left a message, and I tried to call him back yesterday, January 30th, and no answer or voicemail. I could hear the sigh. I will not be purchasing another Ford, and I've made a horrible mistake purchasing this Ford. Ford all the way around has failed.
So this goes back to what we're saying is there's actually 3 trust relationships, one with Ford the brand, one with the dealership, and one with the sales professional here. So on all 3 relationships, what are they telling us?
Fail, fail, fail.
Failed, failed, failed. Okay, so let's look at competence. Now, we don't know what they're saying about, they said it wasn't the whole experience, you know, so there wasn't incompetence all the way through, but where are they saying there was not competence?
They are saying that the communication was bad.
They're naming communication as the incompetent area.
Yes.
You don't know how to return a call. They leave
Right.
a message and there was no voicemail available.
Right.
How about reliability, that we did what we said we were going to do?
I would imagine that, because I would imagine that
Well, we didn't call them back though.
right. So that's why I'm imagining that.
Not okay. And what did that do to our credibility about our words and our actions matching?
That no matching, no
No
matching.
matching. Okay. And what is that person? What have they just told us about care? Do they feel that we care about them more than we care about ourselves?
No, and they even said it. They don't care! Exclamation point.
They don't care. Okay. So on our 0 to 100 trust meter, how did we do?
I'm thinking 0.
0. Yeah, we weren't competent, we weren't reliable, we weren't credible, and we weren't care. So, and it's just, you know, the simple thing around returning the communication, following through on those communications. All the rest of the process probably was great, but this was enough to tank it and have them say, never will I purchase Ford again. All right, we're going to jump over to service. And Lisa, I'm going to let you read this one again.
Okay, awesome. The service rep was great, as well as the woman who answered the phone when I called for service. What I suggest you improve is how you are greeted when you arrived. I didn't know we were supposed to pull into the garage to check in, so I parked and walked in. It was obvious I was uncertain about what to do, but nobody in the garage asked if I needed help. There were 3 or 4 men chatting amongst themselves. I found my way to the cashier and I asked her. She was helpful. I pulled in the garage and still didn't get greeted. If I were alone and not with my husband, I would have been very uncomfortable. Instead, I was just a bit annoyed. Outside of that, everything was great. I appreciate your team taking us in last minute and fixing our issue related to a recall. Keep doing that.
I love that customers give us feedback like that. You know, it's the whole story. It's the mixed perception. You know, this was good, this wasn't good. You know, you guys are so great, so why don't you make sure that you make the whole thing great? So in terms of competence, let's break out a couple of parts. So do they think that the dealership is competent in terms of performing the service?
Yes.
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 They think that the dealership is competent in the phone and making the appointment and setting up all of that?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So we're doing a lot of things good. So, but do they think they were competent around where are they saying you're not competent and you really need to fix that?
Basically, you know, I'm blanking on the words right about now, but I'm envisioning Disney like with where you go and making that very, very user friendly about where to go, who to talk to, and then the communication from folks whenever they're talking amongst themselves and not really greeting somebody who just clearly does not know where she's going.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for bringing in the Disney part,
Yeah.
because it's about not frustrating people, making it clear where they're supposed to go. So we might need to do something around either greeters or porters or signage, or, you know, make it clear, and certainly around greeting. You know,
Yeah.
making sure that, you know, some of those rules we talk about is 30-second rule, 5-foot rule, you know, making sure that greeting happens. Yet, when she went to another team member, the cashier,
They helped.
they helped. So this is where we can see, you know, this is a President's Award winning store. They're a good store, but they're working on being a great store, and a great store would fix those things too. So I pulled into the garage. All that's good. What would you say the reliability was, that they follow through, the perception that you will follow through on your actions? You
Yeah,
know,
I think so. I think so. I think that they built trust there because basically outside of getting the car really into the shop,
yep,
everything else was great.
yep. And what do you think? What do you think about credible? Your words and your actions match.
It sounds like it did.
Sounds like it did, except it took a little hit around not being quite as welcoming and friendly, but yeah.
Okay.
And here's where the big one is, the one that really matters the most. What do you think they think about care? That we care about
Um,
them at least as much as we care about ourselves. And this is kind of the care versus self-absorption.
yeah, I would probably give that one mixed reviews just because of the 3 or 4 men chatting amongst themselves.
Right. So there were some great examples of caring with, the phone experience and with the cashier, but then pulling into the drive, actually not. So
Yeah.
on our 0 to 100 trustometer, Lisa, what do you think we should give them?
Mm, I'll go with a 75.
75. Okay. Overall good, but some areas to improve. And
Sure.
a customer that clearly wants to stay in relationship because
Yes.
they're offering advice.
Yes.
So how about this one? You want to read this one?
I would love to. I would love to. I would love to share with another participant, but since I'm the only one here, I get to read
You
them
have to
all.
make up for a lot of other people.
Yes. So Jerome was fantastic. He was really invested in helping out and extremely accommodating. I didn't want his mediocre rating to reflect on him as a wonderful employee and great provider of customer service. However, the car was making extremely alarming noises and they could not figure out the cause. I do not feel like the issue was actually resolved, but I already had to go back twice, so I guess it is what it is.
Okay, so they love Jerome, right? Yeah, I
Yeah.
think a lot of people love Jerome. He's a fantastic service advisor. So let's go through our 4 trust behavior categories. Competence. What do you think this customer thinks about competence? Do we know how to do the work?
No, no, it doesn't sound like that. I mean, it sounds like Jerome knows how to do what Jerome does. So there's a ray of sunshine there, but from actually fixing a car and making that alarming noise go away, no.
And this is an area of challenge for us. This is an area of challenge around recalls when people come back and think their car got broken during the reprogramming of the module. This is a problem where people have an idea in their head about what the repair should be like, and based on old information about vehicles.
Yeah.
And then not understanding that some things are actually very hard to diagnose in the complex vehicles that we have today. So it may look like we're not competent, and we have to be aware of that in our communication. Reliability. This is another one. Did we follow through? Did our words, did we do what we said we were going to do?
It doesn't seem like that either because he already had to go back twice and it's not still resolved.
Yeah, one of our key indicators is fix it right the first time. So it's not feeling like we did fix it right the first time.
Right.
What about credibility and, that our words and actions match?
I'm sure not. I'm sure that they're like, okay, well, we're going to fix it for you. And that just didn't happen.
So credibility is not as strong as it could be. It's not real bad because they don't think we're liars. They're
Right.
willing to give the benefit of doubt, and we see that at the end where they say, I guess it is what it is.
Yeah.
So there is some willingness to give us the benefit of the doubt. And care. Do they think that we care about them at least as much as we care about ourselves?
Uh,
Once again, we can start with Jerome.
yeah. I mean, Jerome, is the ray of sunshine here. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think that this is all bad, but again, it could be a little bit better because feeling cared for is actually fixing it as well.
So, we may need to increase our empathy in this over the frustration of how difficult it is to get some things repaired. But overall, on a 0 to 100, what would you say?
Um, well, That's interesting because Jerome was really great. Um, I'm going to give it a 50 because
Okay.
it didn't fix it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The customer is really sensitive to that because the customer said, I don't want this mediocre rating to reflect on him,
Yeah.
because he's a wonderful employee and great provider of customer service. But overall, the rest of the business is causing that. All right, so that's where we are. How about this one? I'm going to read this one.
Jesse, my service rep, was excellent in keeping me informed on the time needed and repairs to be made. He is pleasant and easy to work with as a customer.
So what is this customer saying? How do we do on competence?
Great.
Bing. How do we do on reliability?
Great.
Bing. How do we do on credibility?
Great.
And how do we do on care?
Excellent, because my service advisor definitely kept me informed.
Yeah. So I wasn't out there wondering, hanging, having to call in, what's happening with my vehicle? Do I need to get alternate transportation? Wasn't getting all anxious and stressed. He is pleasant and easy to work with. How nice that is.
Yeah.
So here we go. Just to mention, this is not just with customers. We're also building trust with team members.
Nice.
So recently I had a service manager decide to use this same trust format with a team situation. It was a challenge between a service advisor, a technician, and the dispatcher. And once again, everybody intended to do what they thought was right, but in the process wound up breaking trust with each other as team members. So the service advisor had a customer come in with a vehicle that was getting to 100,000, and the timing chain often is a known failure at that point. And the technician, but she did not say anything about doing that. She sent it in for the other work that was the vehicle was in for. But the technician came back and said, I think we should replace the timing chain. And she was trying to do something for the customer in a positive way. She was thinking through warranty. The vehicle was still on warranty. The timing chain only has a 2-year warranty. She thought it would be better to wait until the vehicle actually needed the timing chain so that they could extend that warranty and get the full coverage 2 years out from their current warranty. So basically, the service advisor was trying to do something nice for the customer. However, the technician's looking at it. What do you think his perspective might be?
Let's just do it now. Let's, make some money.
Well, let's make some money, but also as a technician, remember that other one where they had to keep bringing it back?
Yeah.
I don't want to be the technician who has a comeback because I didn't identify it, diagnose it, and fix it then. And then now I have an upset customer. So the technician thinks he's doing the right thing. And meanwhile, the dispatcher doesn't know of this back and forth between the advisor and the technician, and she just sees the work ready to go. So she dispatches it. And then the advisor is in the situation, she does not want to call the customer about that. She does not want to have that conversation. So what we looked at were all the ways that unintentionally each team member broke trust with the other team member.
Mm.
Where do you think some of that may be? In competence, reliability, credibility, or care, or the combo?
I'm going to say,
and they were saying each one of them was below the line.
well, I mean, it depends on like what perspective you're actually looking at and from. So, each of them, like, the service advisors trying to, they all think that they're doing the right thing by the customer, but it doesn't seem to be the right thing for the other team member. So caring for the customer, but it doesn't come off as caring for the team member.
Yeah, so definitely the relationships were taking a hit in care.
Yeah.
What do you think was happening around credibility, your words and actions matching? So the advisor says one thing to the technician, then something else happens. What's the advisor thinking?
That the technician didn't listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how can I count on you to follow through on what you said you were going to do?
Exactly.
So you can see how quickly this can escalate to low trust between team members. And I might also say managers with team members, same thing. Are we doing things that make us look competent as a manager and as a leader? And if I remember correctly, the resilience from Dipped in Blue, Marcus Buckingham talked a lot about feeling our leaders are competent.
Yeah.
To lead us into the future.
Sure.
You know, as a leader, are you reliable? Do you follow through on what you said you were going to do? And are you credible, that your words and your actions match? People say that they'd actually rather work for somebody who's difficult and hard and tough and truthful.
Yeah, as long as that matches,
Yep.
because
And
you
then,
know where you stand.
yeah, and then do you think that your team members feel that you care about them as least as much as you care about yourself?
Right. If you have an agenda that doesn't include me, then how can I trust you?
Right, right. So we're about to do an employee engagement survey, and I think we're probably going to be getting some feedback on the trust relationship between managers and team members and team members and team members. What do you think, Lisa?
I
Ready
think
to go
so.
for that?
Yeah.
All right, so our takeaway from this is when process is strong, it's business as usual. So when your transaction is, you know, seamless, it's business as usual. That's what we expect. You know, I'm doing business with you because I expect it to go right. But what really is wonderful is when relationship is strong, we get forgiveness. So think of some of those customer comments we just heard. What team members really built a strong relationship that got us forgiveness?
Oh, I think it was Jerome, the service advisor, and then the woman who couldn't find her way around the service lane. Yeah, they basically gave forgiveness.
Yeah, and in the sales example where they persisted in getting financing,
Yes.
definitely strong relationship. They said, we'll never buy a car from anywhere else. So
Yeah.
that's what we're looking at. So here's some future exercises we're going to do, not right now, but this is a chance for us as we move forward in the year to really look at what behaviors we do that show that we're competent. So, you know, what are we doing that builds that? And this is an area that we really have a lot that we can do around recalls and other kinds of service work that we do, as well as, Lisa, I know you brought this up recently about customers saying the price on the internet is not the same as the price that I'm told when I come to the store. So,
Right.
you know, these are some of the things that we can pull out of our own actions. So that might be a competence issue. The person who is updating the website may not be, so there may be things that add to that. Reliability, once again, what are customers telling us that is breaking trust? Everything went good, that example we had, except nobody called me back from F&I. I
Right.
left a message, no voicemail. So once again, what are the behaviors that break trust? Not returning calls, not giving status updates, not following through when we promise things. And then the behaviors that build trust are things like calling them to let them know that we're not going to be able to do what we said we we're going to do early on in the process.
Yes.
And you know, both sales consultants and service advisors really resist doing that because it can be an unpleasant conversation. And then how do we build our credibility? How do we make sure, you know, I know, Lisa, you've been working with impeccable with your word. That's what this is. And what would you say?
Yeah, and then this could be, I think that the sticker, you know, what's on the internet doesn't actually match, because folks, you know, kind of expected that price whenever they walk in the door, but maybe they don't qualify, and then, you know, there's no disclaimer, or that they see that there's a disclaimer that not everyone gets this price.
Right. So, you know, what's our due diligence around that? What's our languaging? What's our in-person, face-to-face conversation like? Yeah. And then care, that our words and our actions show that we care about them at least as much as we care about ourselves. So what are the behaviors that customers are telling us we're doing that show care? And
Yeah.
what are the behaviors they're telling us that as simple as nobody greeted me, I didn't know where to go, that,
Sure.
yeah. All right, so we also have some wonderful tools for those hard conversations that show whether we care or not. Here are 10 phrases that we'll talk about how we can use that really demonstrate positive caring. And then we will work on some of our skills to, when we're dealing with challenge situations, to be more present in our conversation. So the first step is language that we can use to acknowledge, language that we can use to be positively affirmative, and language we can use to move toward resolution. So these are things that we'll be doing as we move into the year with CEM, really working on building those trust behaviors. And we will work with some sticky situations that come up all the time and look at how we can really reinforce the trust we build when we're dealing with some of these difficult ones. So let's talk about the rest of where we're going this year. So Jim Farley has rolled out the plan, and just let's talk about how this works for you as a dealership. So what we've identified is to stay in the game, there's some things we must do. We must turn around automotive operations and compete like a challenger, treat customers like family, create must-have products and services, simplify everything, modernize everywhere, care for each other. So Lisa, thinking of your store, where would you say you really, this resonates with you and what you're doing at the store to stay in the game?
To stay in the game, to care for each other.
Okay.
Definitely.
Great. All right. Anything else that you aren't doing as much as you'd like to, that you really think this would be the year to bump up to stay in the game?
Maybe simplify.
Okay. All right. Simplify everything.
Yep.
And here is our stretch: to grow and win. We will capitalize on our strengths, disrupt ourselves, partner for expertise and efficiency, and lead the electrification revolution in all areas of strength. So this is the plan. And now let's talk about some of, we're talking about the customer experience. We actually have identified from our customer research the top 8 drivers. There are probably 10, but we only have 8 on this page. So that's all I'm going to talk about is, okay, so number one, most important, communication with me using plain language. So Lisa, we just looked at some verbatims. What do you think? How's the store doing on that?
I think they're doing well on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Offer high quality services.
For the most part.
Yep. Resolve the problem with vehicle service issue quickly.
Again, for the most part.
Yep.
Some of them might be tricky.
Yep, we did here. We don't know from what we pulled out whether they reward loyalty, but we certainly have people saying, I'm not going to do business anywhere else. Welcoming environment at the dealership. So
in one instance, we heard that could be a bit better.
Okay, but the rest all sounded very welcoming, very pleased. Dealership employees answer all my questions.
It seems that way.
Except for the one that didn't return the call, so.
That's true.
Services my vehicle quickly and efficiently. We had some nice feedback on that, and makes getting a vehicle serviced easy. And just a little more working on that greeting and helping people find where to go. All right. So, and here are some of the areas that we're working on this year. Certainly commercial vehicle, remote sales and service. We've had an emphasis on that, kind of been pushed into it more rapidly than we had been going based on our world with COVID, and then moving toward more customer education, onboarding, and loyalty and membership programs. So where do we go next? We're talking about this wonderful thing that we're doing with building customer, and that's just part of what we do with talking about the customer experience and the employee experience at the same time. So as you know, because we've been doing this for a number of years, it's about time for us to move into the employee viewpoint assessment and find out what our employees are thinking about those trust building behaviors and other things that we know are important to high levels of employee engagement. So we are going to launch that survey. And as you know, once we launch it, we'll look at the results and we'll have some huddles, and then we'll talk about where to go from here. So sounds good?
Sounds great.
All right, and just to remind you, here's where we were in 2019. We haven't done a survey since 2019. And I think it's really important that we do one now, because we've had a year of COVID and having to change a lot of our business process, and there's been a lot of impact on team members. So once again, you won your 3rd President's Award, and now we're going to look at the same information. We'll be able to compare year over year. And one of the managers brought up that he really hopes that people write in a lot of text comments, because they want to find out how much impact COVID has had versus business as usual. So just to be able to sort all that out.
Sure.
And that's it.
Awesome.
So did that help you? How I stopped recording? Did that help you understand how it went?
Yeah, you didn't stop recording.